I'm Sharon, an architect by trade, but today I'm stepping into the role of a bride, brimming with excitement as I walk down the aisle. Every detail of our wedding, from the flowers to the playlist, bears the mark of my meticulous planning. I've imagined this day as a scene plucked from a romance novel, a celebration of our love. At the altar stands Peter, my soon-to-be husband, an engineer with a practical, no-nonsense approach to life that complements my creative flair. Together, we've always felt like a perfect match, each enhancing the other's strengths. As I approach, I catch a glimpse of something troubled in his eyes, but I chalk it up to pre-wedding nerves. I overhear Peter's mother, Julie, whispering nearby, her gaze intense and unsettling despite her strained smile and compliments. The ceremony continues, but Peter's vows lack the usual warmth, and there's a tense pause before he finally says, "I do." During the ring exchange, Julie insists on capturing the moment with a photo, her words tinged with caution rather than celebration. At the reception, she offers backhanded compliments on my dress, highlighting its beauty while subtly critiquing its non-traditional style. I deflect to Julie's subtle criticisms about our wedding choices, but before the conversation could escalate, Peter intervenes politely, asking his mother for a moment along with me. His interruption seems like a defense of our decisions, yet his tone hints at a resignation, a lack of genuine support. It feels oddly out of place on what should have been a day of pure joy. Scanning the crowd for reassurance, I hope to find solace in the chaos of the wedding festivities. Yet deep down, I sense that something fundamental is wrong. The tension in the air is undeniable, and the red flags wave too boldly to ignore any longer. As Peter and I glide onto the dance floor for our first dance, the distance between us feels more than physical. Though our movements are synchronized, emotionally we are worlds apart. The song meant to celebrate our unity now feels like a cruel irony. When the music fades, Peter's attempt at reassurance only serves to emphasize the growing chasm between us. "Mrs. Sharon, ready for forever?" He asks, the irony of his question hanging heavy in the air. I want to voice my doubts, to question whether our tomorrows will be overshadowed by the unease of today, but instead, I mask my concerns with a hesitant affirmation, clinging to the hope that the darkness looming over us will eventually dissipate. Unknowns to me, this day would merely serve as the overture to a challenging period that would test not only the resilience of our marriage, but the very core of my identity. As we toast to our union, the celebratory words feel hollow, overshadowed by an unsettling sense of loss. The journey back to my home, a charming 3-bedroom house that stood as a symbol of my hard-earned independence, marked the beginning of our shared life. This space was meant to be our sanctuary, the solid ground upon which we would build our future together. However, it quickly became the stage for a series of conflicts that felt more like invasions than the start of marital bliss. Julie, residing just a short distance away, began to visit with alarming frequency, often uninvited. Her criticisms were relentless, targeting everything from my culinary endeavors to the decor of our home. Whether lamenting the flavor of my dishes or the choice of bathroom tiles, her complaints were diverse but equally cutting. Peter's attempts to mediate were feeble at best, appearing more for show than genuine protection. Julie's intrusions became a regular ordeal, each visit an opportunity for her to assert dominance through thinly veiled insults and critiques. The pivotal moment arrived one afternoon when Julie showed up with suitcases in hand, her intentions clear and her sense of entitlement palpable. This wasn't just another visit, it was an invasion, threatening to smother the life out of our fledgling marriage. "I'll be staying here now," she declared, breezing past me to deposit her luggage in my favorite cozy corner by the window, my haven for quiet reflection and reading. "This spot will suit me just fine," Julie proclaimed, her tone leaving no room for argument. I turned to Peter, my eyes pleading for him to intervene, to uphold the sanctity of our home. This was a decision we should have made together. Sensing an opportunity, I called Peter aside, my voice trembling. "This is our home. Shouldn't we have discussed this first?" His gaze met mine, devoid of the warmth and affection that once filled it. "Mom's getting older, Sharon. It's not right for her to be alone. She needs to be with family," he explained, emphasizing the word family in a way that made me feel like an outsider. "So I'm not family, is that what you're saying?" The words barely escaped my lips before tears welled up, a mix of hurt and frustration. Peter quickly responded, his patience wearing thin. "You know that's not what I mean. But I owe her this? What about us? What about what we owe to each other? We're supposed to be building our life together, not living with your mom," I argued, but it was as if I were speaking to a brick wall. My concerns, my feelings, seemed insignificant. And just like that, Julie's move into our home was decided, overriding my wishes. With Julie's arrival, the atmosphere in our home shifted dramatically. Every corner, once filled with our shared dreams, now bore the weight of tension and conflict. My tranquil reading nook was swallowed by her belongings. The kitchen became a battleground for her criticisms, and Peter, the man I married, seemed more aligned with Julie than with me. It hit me that I wasn't just fighting for my marriage or my space anymore. I was fighting for my sense of self, my dignity, and my peace. A nagging thought lingered. How had it come to this? How had my desires, my space, and my voice become secondary to Julie's preferences? The change was stark. My cherished nook became a symbol of Julie's intrusion, the kitchen a site for her relentless scrutiny, and my husband had transformed into a stranger siding with what felt like the opposing team. And this was only the beginning. Life, already challenging, spiraled into an unbearable nightmare as the oppressive atmosphere in our home mirrored the shrinking of my own space and voice. Adding to the mounting pressure, a discovery brought everything into sharp focus: the unmistakable presence of 2 blue lines on a pregnancy test, signaling a new life amidst the turmoil. This revelation intensified the situation, rendering the already dense atmosphere almost suffocating. Clutching the pregnancy test, my hands shook with a mix of anticipation and dread as I grappled with the realization that the stakes were now even higher. I had always imagined that discovering I was pregnant would be among the happiest moments of my life, filled with excitement and celebration. Yet, standing alone in the bathroom, tears welling in my eyes as I faced my reflection, I found this milestone felt more like a weighty burden. When I shared the news with Peter, his reaction felt disappointingly flat. "Well, that's something," he muttered, swiftly steering the conversation toward a renovation idea his mother had proposed. It became evident that Julie saw my pregnancy not merely as news, but as her new project. She took it upon herself to oversee every aspect, from my diet to the birthing plan, all under the guise of being helpful. Julie's interference quickly morphed into a form of control. She scrutinized every morsel I ate, casting judgmental glances at even the simplest meals, and questioning my weight management, despite my assurances that my diet was doctor-approved. As the pregnancy progressed, Julie's demands became increasingly outrageous. She asserted control over my home, expecting me to maintain it to her exacting standards, regardless of my condition. "Sharon, why isn't the living room clean yet?" she would demand from her perch in my once tranquil reading nook, now usurped as her headquarters for endless phone scrolling and TV watching. My pleas for rest fell on deaf ears, with Julie dismissing pregnancy as no excuse for laziness. Peter's silence during these exchanges only exacerbated the tension. His lack of support became glaringly apparent, particularly during a dinner that devolved into an argument over baby names. Julie's harsh critique of my chosen name was the final straw. "Enough, Julie. "This is my child, and I will decide how to name them," I countered, my patience worn thin. Her response was one of indignation, as if my assertion of control over my own life was a personal affront. Peter's attempts at mediation, siding with his mother and dismissing me as emotional, widened a rift between us. I was left feeling more isolated than ever, trapped in a home that had become a battlefield where my voice seemed to matter less and less. It was no longer just about choosing a baby name. It was about reclaiming my autonomy, my dignity, and the sense of belonging that have been systematically eroded by Julie's overbearing presence. Staring at the reflection of my once gleamy wedding ring, I scarcely recognized the woman gazing back at me. A woman who was slowly losing everything she cherished, her sanctuary, her self-respect, and most agonizingly, her resolve to stand up for herself. In the midst of one of our tense confrontations, Julie, brimming with a vindictive sense of triumph, delivered a crushing blow that changed everything. She suggested that maybe I didn't belong in their family if I couldn't handle a simple family disagreement. Peter's response, or lack thereof, was perhaps the most agonizing part. His silence spoke volumes, conveying that my suffering wasn't just beginning. It had been my reality for far too long. Days blurred together as I navigated through a house that no longer felt like mine, holding on to the only beacon of hope left, the life growing inside me. Yet even the small solace felt threatened in the toxic environment I found myself in. The breaking point arrived on a chilly evening during another agonizing family dinner. Despite my efforts to prepare a flawless meal, Julie's criticisms were relentless, attacking everything from the seasoning to the preparation. Each comment chipped away at my already fragile confidence. But it was her next jab that pierced the deepest, questioning my ability as a mother based on my supposed failure to manage household chores. Peter's acquiescence was the final straw, pushing me past my breaking point. Fueled by a potent mixture of anger, resentment, and sheer desperation, I found my voice. Step it up. I've been carrying our child, managing our home, and enduring endless criticism from your mother, and you're telling me to step it up. The shock on their faces spoke volumes, but I was beyond caring. For too long I had allowed myself to be diminished and demeaned, but in that moment I reclaimed my voice. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. The clarity of my decision cut through years of suppression like a beacon light. It was a declaration of my refusal to endure any more disrespect or emotional torment. I was prepared to fight for myself, for my child, and for a future liberated from the shadows that had clouded my life. As I spoke, my voice trembled with emotion, yet I remained resolute in my stance. If this is your idea of family, then count me out. Leaving behind their stunned silence, I gathered only the essentials and made my way to the door, eager to escape the oppressive atmosphere. Julie, ever the provocateur, seized the moment to deliver her most cutting remark yet. "And where do you think you're going? This is Peter's house, not yours." Pausing, I turned to face her, my resolve steeling. "Actually, Julie, this house is mine. I bought it. I decide who stays, who goes." Peter's voice broke through, laced with desperation. "Sharon, please, let's talk about this." But I was beyond negotiation. "There's nothing left to discuss," I replied, my tears a testament to the pain of my decision. Stepping out into the cold night felt like embarking on a new chapter of my life, one filled with uncertainty yet also tinged with a profound sense of liberation. The closing door behind me marked the end of a tumultuous saga, a final farewell to a life I could no longer endure. With each step, a mix of pain and determination coursed through me, fueled by the urgent need to reclaim my autonomy. The journey to my parents' home blurred with cold exhaustion and ache. Just moments from the sanctuary of my childhood haven, a stumble sent me crashing to the ground. The physical pain was a mere echo of my inner turmoil, yet far from deterring me. This fall only strengthened my resolve. Arriving at my parents' doorstep, the concern etched on their faces mirrored the gravity of my situation. As they rushed me to the hospital, I realized this moment of vulnerability marked not just an end, but a beginning. Lying in the hospital bed, the reality of my circumstances sinking in, I knew returning to my former life was not an option. This breaking point was a vital step towards reclaiming the life and dignity that had been stripped away, a painful yet necessary transition towards healing and independence. The clarity that accompanies such moments is profound, illuminating the path forward from the shadows of the past towards a future of my own creation. Amidst a whirlwind of emotions, I stood surrounded by the comforting yet anxious presence of my parents. Their unspoken concerns spoke volumes about their fears regarding the true state of my marriage, now starkly unveiled in its troubled depths. Breaking the heavy silence, my mother voiced her concern, her words laden with the weight of the unfolding reality. "Sharon, dear, what's your plan now?" Uncertain yet determined, I replied, "I'm not sure, Mom, but one thing's certain. I can't go back to that life. Not now, not ever." My declaration, more assured than I expected, resonated with newfound determination. My father, who had been pacing anxiously, paused to offer reassurance, emphasizing their unwavering support regardless of my decision. He urged me to consider not just my own future, but also the future of the life growing inside me. His words prompted a silent acknowledgement from me. My mind had been a battleground of uncertain scenarios, each fraught with the possibility of a fresh start. The unexpected buzz of my phone shattered my reverie, a message from Peter, a plea for communication. Yet to me his timing felt like a door long closed, his words unseen, left hanging in the void as I powered off my phone, a symbolic end to our dialogue. My next steps became clear, marked by action rather than words. Consulting a family lawyer became my first decisive act towards untangling the turmoil of my marriage. With the unwavering support of my parents, we navigated the cold legal breakdown of our union, discussing divorce, custody arrangements, and financial support. Despite the sterile nature of these discussions, they empowered me, marking the initial steps towards seizing control of my destiny and securing the well-being of my unborn child. Within a week, Peter and Julie received the formal notices, divorce papers for Peter, and an eviction notice for Julie from the home that was legally mine. Alongside these were demands for substantial child support and compensation for the emotional turmoil I had endured. Though drastic, these actions were imperative, severing the ties that had long bound me to a life of despair. When I eventually re-engaged with my phone, it was inundated with Peter's attempts to reconnect. His messages carried a blend of regret and a plea for reconciliation. Yet the wounds inflicted by nights of humiliation, years of neglect, and Julie's calculated malice, all silently condemned by Peter, ran too deep. The fleeting temptation to entertain his overtures was swiftly overshadowed by the memory of enduring pain. This moment wasn't merely about closing a chapter. It was about reclaiming my narrative, where the shadows of the past no longer dictated the brightness of my future. The love I once harbored for him had been utterly eclipsed by the sorrow of our shattered marriage. Taking decisive action, I purged his messages, erased his contact details, and blocked him across all social platforms. To me, Peter had become a relic of my history, a distressing chapter I was more than ready to close. Despite the knowledge that the road ahead would be rife with challenges, divorce, especially with a child on the way, is a complex journey. I was finally charting my own course, stepping out from the suffocating shadow that had enveloped me toward a future brimming with hope. On the day of the court proceedings, The atmosphere in the room bore the distinct sterile chill characteristic of spaces where destinies are determined. Seated beside me, my lawyer exuded confidence, while my parents offered silent yet unwavering support from behind. Across the aisle, Peter seemed to drift, the reality of the situation dawning upon him, while Julie's countenance oscillated between shock and defiance. As the session commenced, the judge entered, prompting everyone to rise. What followed was a whirlwind of legal proceedings with accusations and evidence laid bare. It seemed as though Julie and Peter were seeing their actions for the first time, not just through the lens of the law, but through my perspective as well. When Julie was called to speak, her usual confidence waned. She attempted to justify her actions as concern for her son's well-being, but her explanation fell flat, especially under the judge's skeptical gaze. Judge Nina R. Morrison's verdict was unequivocal and resolute. I was granted a full divorce and sole custody of our unborn child. Peter was ordered to provide child support, while Julie faced a substantial fine for emotional abuse and harassment. As the judge's gavel fell, a wave of liberation washed over me, tinged with a hint of melancholy. My marriage hadn't concluded with dramatic confrontations, but rather with the quiet shuffling of papers and the unwavering voice of justice. This chapter of my life was sealed shut, paving the way for a fresh start unburdened by the chains of the past. The price of my newfound freedom was one I never could have foreseen on the day I exchanged vows. Exiting the courtroom, Peter approached with a bewildered expression, expressing his remorse and disbelief at the unraveling of our lives. Yet as I looked into his eyes, I no longer saw my future, but rather a profound void where love once dwelled. I never envisioned this as our ending, Peter, but apologies can't undo what's been done, I asserted firmly, turning away to bid farewell to the past. Julie sought my gaze, perhaps in search of forgiveness or acknowledgement, yet I couldn't afford her that closure. She had taken too much from me, and I refused to grant her the satisfaction of witnessing the death of her impact on my spirit. Stepping into the embrace of the outside world, it felt as if life welcomed me with open arms, the sun shining brighter, colors more vibrant. It was as if I viewed the world through a new lens, unclouded by the shadows of turmoil. My mother's embrace and words of pride brought tears to my eyes. "You're truly free now, Sharon," she said, her emotion palpable. "I couldn't have faced this without you and Dad," I responded, feeling overwhelming gratitude for their unwavering support. That evening, in the tranquility of my home, now solely mine, I discovered a profound peace. Alone, yet far from lonely for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I was free to live by my own standards. The road ahead as a single mother appeared daunting, yet as I sensed my unborn child's gentle movements, a wave of confidence enveloped me. We would navigate this journey together. I was certain of it. The trials I had weathered brought me to this juncture of self-discovery. Though they left scars, they told a story of resilience, not surrender. Gazing toward the horizon, I was not merely propelled by circumstance, but propelled by choice. This realization filled me with a profound sense of empowerment, poised to embrace what lay ahead, not out of obligation, but from a place of deliberate determination. I recognized that this was the dawn of a significant new chapter.
"You're too old for me now," Marcus said like it was no big deal, as if he wasn't ending our 15-year marriage. I stood in the kitchen, gripping the counter to steady myself. He kept scrolling on his phone, not even looking at me. "My name is Olivia. I'm 38. I never thought the man I supported through medical school, the man whose loans I helped pay, the man whose dream home I helped build, would say this to me. Sophia understands me better," he added, smirking. "She's young, full of energy, 22. Remember what that was like? Well, maybe not anymore." I took a deep breath, my fingers brushing over the smooth countertop I had picked when we remodeled just 3 years ago. When were you planning to tell me about Sophia? He shrugged, his expensive watch, my anniversary gift to him, shining in the light. I'm telling you now, she's moving in next week. You should start packing. Pack? I asked, keeping my voice calm though my heart pounded. This is my house too, Marcus. He finally looked at me with a smug smile. Actually, it's not. Everything is in my name, the house, the cars, even that little yoga studio you run. Did you really think I'd put a housewife's name on anything important? Housewife. The word stung. I had built my yoga studio from nothing while supporting his career. But to him, I was just someone who stayed home. We're married, Marcus. Everything we built together. About that, he interrupted, straightening his designer suit. I'm not signing any divorce papers. No official divorce means no property split. Simple as that. You can leave quietly, or I can make things hard for you. I watched him walk toward his bedroom, my mind racing. What he didn't know was that 3 months ago, I found a receipt for a diamond bracelet I never got, along with a hotel booking. That same day, I met with Diana Torres, the best divorce lawyer in town. Oh, Marcus called out, don't bother trying to access our accounts. I already moved everything. You understand, right? Can't have you getting emotional and doing something stupid with my money. Is money. I almost laughed at his arrogance. Instead, I pulled out my phone and sent a text to Diana. He finally told me, go ahead. That evening, I sat in the home office while Marcus packed for what he called a medical conference in Miami. We both knew Sophia would be there, probably already wearing that bracelet. Don't touch anything while I'm gone, he warned. The security cameras are recording. I'd hate to press charges if something goes missing. I nodded, looking at a framed photo of us in Greece 5 years ago. How long have you been planning this, Marcus? He thought for a moment. Does it matter? You're not a bad person, Olivia. You're just not what I need anymore. Sophia is fresh, exciting. She doesn't come with all this history, like our life together was just baggage. I thought about the nights I stayed up helping him study, the vacations I skipped so he could build his career, the dreams I put on hold for him. You're right, I said softly. History doesn't matter when you're rewriting it. He frowned, confused by my calmness. He expected me to cry, to beg, to make a scene. Just be gone when I get back, he sighed. Sophia already picked new furniture. Time for a fresh start. After you left, I waited 30 minutes and made 2 calls. First, to Diana. He's gone. How soon can we move forward? Everything is ready, she said. He won't know what hit him. Second, to my brother James, a forensic accountant. Hey sis, he answered. Let me guess. He finally made his move. Exactly as you predicted, I said. What have you found? James chuckled. Oh, Olivia, you're going to love this. He's been creative with his finances. The IRS will be very interested. I ended the calls and walked through the house, our house, touching the walls, the furniture, the life we built. Marcus thought he was smart, keeping everything in his name, pushing me out without legal divorce. But he didn't know I had spent the last 3 months gathering everything, proof of his affairs, his secret accounts, his shady financial moves. Diana had built an unbeatable case. James had traced every penny he tried to hide. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Landed in Miami. Remember the cameras. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I smiled. Those cameras. They had been recording more than he realized. Have a great conference, I replied. Let him think I was defeated. Let him enjoy his weekend with Sophia. Because on Monday morning, everything would change. I poured myself a glass of wine, opened my laptop, and reviewed the files. 3 months of careful planning were about to pay off. Marcus thought I was a helpless housewife. He was about to learn just how wrong he was. Monday morning came with a thunderstorm, matching my mood perfectly. I sat in Diana's office, watching raindrops slide down the window as she spread documents across her desk. The cameras were a gift, really, Diana said, playing a video on her laptop. There was Marcus in his home office, telling Sophia exactly how he planned to hide money and avoid divorce. He was so focused on watching you, he forgot he was recording himself. I shook my head, remembering how proud he looked when he installed them. What time does his flight land? About an hour ago, Diana checked her watch. He should be walking into his office right as the papers are served. We included everything: videos, bank records, proof of his affairs. Let's see how he explains this to his hospital board. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Made it back safe. Where are you? The house better be empty. Before I could reply, another message popped up. What the hell is this? Why am I being served papers at work? I silenced my phone and turned back to Diana. What happens next? She pointed to highlighted sections of the documents. His financial fraud is serious. Your brother found proof that he hid money in secret accounts and lied about his income. That's not just a divorce issue, it's illegal. And the house? Diana smiled. That's the best part. Remember when he asked you to pay for renovations from your own account? That proves you have a legal claim to it. He can't just throw you out. My phone kept lighting up with messages from Marcus, each one more desperate. This is ridiculous. Call off your lawyers. You're making a huge mistake. Think about what this will do to my career. Diana smirked. You should see what's happening at his practice right now. The hospital won't like this kind of scandal. Right on cue, my brother James called. Sis, you won't believe this. Marcus just tried to access his offshore accounts. They're frozen. He's freaking out. I put the call on speaker. And guess what? James continued. That Miami trip with Sophia, he paid for it with hospital funds. Claimed it was a medical conference, but the only thing being treated was his champagne bill. Diana nodded. We need to act fast. He'll try to delete evidence once he realizes how bad this is. But don't worry, we already have everything saved. What about Sophia? I asked, thinking about his young mistress. Diana shrugged. She's in for a surprise. That bracelet, the car, the house he promised, all bought with stolen money. She might need her own lawyer. Just then, my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered. Your husband said we'd be living in luxury. Sophia snapped. Now they're saying I have to return everything. This is your fault. I laughed. No, Sophia. This is what happens when you trust a man who lies for a living. Good luck. I hung up and turned back to Diana. What's next? We wait, she said confidently. The evidence is airtight. Between the fraud, the cheating, and his hidden money, he's the one in trouble now. Want to see your settlement offer? She handed me a document listing what I would get, half of all assets, way more than Marcus claimed existed, full ownership of the house, and financial compensation for all the years I supported him. Another text from Marcus. Please, can we talk? I made a mistake. We can fix this. Diana saw me looking at my phone and shook her head. Don't answer. Let him sweat. He's realizing his perfect plan just exploded. I thought back to his words from days ago. You're too old for me now. Funny how quickly his tone had changed now that he was losing everything. James called again. Marcus's hospital privileges are suspended. Oh, and those patients he overcharged. They're coming forward. I looked outside at the stormy sky, feeling calm for the first time in weeks. Marcus thought I would cry, beg, walk away quietly. Instead, I had planned, prepared, and waited. Deanna's phone rang. It was Marcus's lawyer. She put it on speaker. My client is willing to negotiate, he said, sounding exhausted. He's prepared to offer a generous settlement. Deanna's voice was cold. Your client is in no position to offer anything. We're going after everything he tried to hide. He should be looking for a criminal lawyer. After hanging up, Diana turned to me. Ready for phase 2. I smiled. Marcus thought he had control. Now it was my turn. 2 weeks later, I sat in my yoga studio, looking over the final divorce papers. The morning sun filled the space I had built, the space Marcus once tried to claim as his. My phone buzzed with a message from James. You're not going to believe this. Marcus just tried to leave the country. Airport security stopped him. I wasn't surprised. In the past 2 weeks, his life had completely fallen apart. The hospital fired him after discovering his financial crimes. His reputation was ruined. Even Sophia had turned against him, suing him after realizing she might be involved in his fraud. Moments later, Diana called. The judge approved everything, she said proudly. The house is officially yours, and you're getting half of all assets, including those offshore accounts he thought we wouldn't find. How does it feel to be a millionaire? I smiled as my yoga students arrived. It feels like justice. Oh, and Olivia, Diana added, Marcus's lawyer called. He's desperate to make a deal to avoid jail. Funny how things change when you're facing prison time. After the call, I stepped into class, greeting my students. They didn't know the details of my divorce, but they had noticed the change in me, how I stood taller, how my smile was real this time. Today's focus is balance, I told them, and knowing your own strength. That afternoon, I returned home, my home now. The security cameras Marcus had installed to spy on me were gone. I had replaced them with my home. His expensive furniture, the ones Sophia planned to get rid of anyway, had been donated to a women's shelter. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Marcus. Please, his message read, I'll sign whatever you want. Just stop the investigation. I can't go to jail. I thought about replying but decided not to. Let him feel what it was like to be powerless, to have someone else decide his future. Instead, I called James. The IRS is all over his records, my brother said. This will keep him busy for years. And Sophia. She's talking to investigators in exchange for immunity. Apparently, she knows a lot about his schemes. I ended the call and stepped outside to my back patio, the same place where Marcus once told me I was too old for him. The garden I had planted was blooming, roses climbing the trellis I had put up last spring. Everything looked brighter now. Diana called with more news. The hospital is doing a full audit of his practice. They're reaching out to his patients about possible overcharging. His medical license is at risk. He never thought it would end this way, I said. They never do, Diana replied. Men like Marcus think they can get away with anything. They forget actions have consequences. That evening, I had a small dinner with James, Diana, and a few close friends who had stood by me. We sat around the dining table, the same table where Marcus used to ignore me while texting Sophia. To new beginnings, James toasted. And to justice, Diana added with a smile. My phone buzzed one last time. Another message from Marcus. I'm sorry, I never should have underestimated you. For the first time, his words were true. He had underestimated me. He thought I was weak, too dependent, too old to fight back. He never realized that while he was planning a future with Sophia, I was quietly gathering evidence, building my case, preparing for this exact moment. I deleted his message. He didn't deserve another second of my energy. I looked around at my friends, my home, my new life. I felt nothing but gratitude. Marcus had tried to throw me away, to make me feel small. Instead, he had pushed me to reclaim my power. To knowing your worth, I said, raising my glass, and never letting anyone tell you otherwise. As we celebrated, I thought about everything I had learned. Age wasn't a weakness, it was wisdom. It was strength. While Marcus and Sophia played checkers, I played chess, and in the end, that made all the difference. Tomorrow, I would wake up in my home, teach at my studio, and continue building my life. Stronger, wiser, and happier than before. The best revenge wasn't just surviving. It was thriving. You get nothing in the divorce, my mother-in-law, Linda, said with a smirk, waving some papers in my face. My son never registered your marriage. You're not even his real wife. I kept folding laundry, staying calm. Thanks for letting me know, Linda, I said, smoothing out David's dress shirt. She slammed the papers onto my folded clothes. Did you hear me? You're nothing. Just a woman who played house with my son. When he marries Olivia, she'll be his real wife. I looked at her and simply asked, Is there anything else? My name is Alexandra. I had just learned that my 8-year marriage was a lie. But while Linda gloated, I thought about the safety deposit box at the bank, the one holding the real marriage papers I had secretly filed years ago. Linda frowned when I didn't react. You're not even upset. David is leaving you for a real woman, and you're acting like I just told you the weather. I picked up my laundry basket. I have dinner to make. Will you be staying? Her face turned red. You're delusional. When David hands you divorce papers tomorrow, don't say I didn't warn you. Olivia's already picking out new curtains. She stormed out. The moment her car drove away, I let out a deep breath and dialed a familiar number. Alexandra, said Margaret, my late mother's best friend and our family lawyer. I was wondering when you'd call. It's happening, I said. Linda just told me my marriage isn't legally registered. David's serving me divorce papers tomorrow. And the proof. Still in the safety deposit box. Smart girl, Margaret said. We have years of evidence, joint accounts, property, your contributions to the business. Linda made a mistake showing her hand so soon. I stared out the kitchen window at the garden I had planted. David and I were happy once. Then his family interfered. Then Olivia, his secretary, started staying late. Then came the lies. A car pulled up. David was home early for the first time in months. How fitting. I wiped my eyes and started cooking like nothing had changed. Alex, his voice was unsure. We need to talk. I turned to face him. About the divorce papers, or the fact that you never legally registered our marriage. His face went pale. How did you? Linda told me, I said, stirring the food. I can explain. Let me guess, I interrupted. Your mother convinced you it was for the best. Just a way to protect family assets. Did I miss anything? He opened his mouth, then closed it. Alex, please. You have to understand. Oh, I understand, I said. I understand that you and your family lied to me for 8 years, that you're leaving me for your secretary, and that you all think I'll walk away with nothing. A flicker of relief crossed his face. He expected tears. Begging. Instead, I set the table like it was any other night. I'll help you, he offered. A small settlement, maybe help with rent. I placed 2 plates down. That's very thoughtful of you. Will you be staying for dinner? He stared at me. Did you hear me? I'm leaving you. This house, everything, it's not yours. I smiled, thinking of the safety deposit box. Eat while it's hot. Tomorrow will be interesting. You're acting weird, he muttered, backing away. No, I said, sitting down. I've just changed. He left without eating. I finished dinner, then went upstairs to pack an overnight bag. Before bed, I made one last call. Hello, Officer Martinez. It's Alexandra Harrison. Remember that file I asked you to keep safe? It's time to use it. I was already at Margaret's office when David and his family arrived. Their confident smiles faded into confusion when they saw me. Linda clutched her expensive handbag. Thomas stood stiffly, and Olivia lingered at the back, clearly trying to outshine me. What is she doing here? Linda snapped at Margaret. This meeting is just to confirm their marriage was never legal. Margaret smiled, a sharp, knowing smile. Please have a seat. Alexandra has some documents to share. David scoffed. There are no documents. That's the whole point. I calmly opened my bag and placed a stack of papers on Margaret's desk. Actually, there are quite a few. Margaret held up the first one, the legal marriage registration I had secretly filed 8 years ago. Linda's face turned pale. That's impossible, she whispered. I made sure. You made sure to destroy the copy you took from the registry office. I finished. But you didn't know I filed it myself. My mother's best friend being a lawyer taught me to protect myself. David grabbed the paper, his hands shaking. This can't be real. Oh, it's very real, Margaret said, spreading out more documents. Bank records showing Alexandra's contributions, property investments in both names, and even company emails praising her work in the business. Thomas shifted uncomfortably. Those were internal messages, which became legal evidence the moment you tried to deceive her, Margaret cut in. But we're not done yet. Alexandra. I pulled out the final file, the one Officer Martinez had been keeping safe. These are records of every conversation where you and Linda planned to keep the marriage unregistered. Phone transcripts, emails, texts. Your mother was very thorough in documenting how you would protect the family assets. Linda's face turned gray. You recorded us? That's illegal. Not in this state, Margaret replied smoothly, especially when fraud is involved. David shot up from his seat. This is ridiculous. Even if the marriage is legal, I'm still divorcing her. She'll get a basic settlement and nothing more. About that, I said, handing him one last paper. His face drained of color as he read it. Margaret explained, this contract, which David signed 3 years ago, makes Alexandra a 50% owner of the family business, in exchange for her help securing the Anderson merger. You didn't even read it before signing, did you? I asked. David swallowed hard. 50%, he muttered. Thomas snatched the paper. You fool, he hissed. Olivia, finally speaking up, looked at David in shock. You said this would be simple. I let out a small laugh. Nothing about this has been simple. For 8 years, I watched and documented everything. I learned from the best. My mother and Margaret taught me to always be prepared. Linda's tone changed. We can make a deal. Name your price. I stood gathering my things. You already tried to name my price. A small settlement and help with rent. But I don't think you can afford me now. David's voice was hollow. What do you want? Everything I'm legally entitled to. Half of the house, the business, the assets. And I want you to explain to the board why I now own part of the company you tried to cut me out of. Thomas groaned. The board will never accept this scandal. Margaret shrugged. Then you better find a way to handle it quietly. Alexandra has been more than reasonable. Reasonable, Linda shrieked. She's destroying our family. I looked her in the eye. No, Linda. You destroyed your family the moment you built my marriage on a lie. I just refused to be your victim. As I walked out, I heard David call my name. I didn't turn back. Let him deal with the mess he made. My phone buzzed with a text from Officer Martinez. Everything go as planned. Better. I replied. Turns out being underestimated has its advantages. 3 months after the meeting in Margaret's office, I sat in my new corner office overlooking the city. The Harrison family business had undergone significant changes, most notably my promotion to co-CEO. The board, initially shocked by the revelations, had quickly recognized that my connections and business acumen were assets they couldn't afford to lose. David had moved out of our house, taking Olivia with him. Last I heard, they were living in a modest apartment across town. Quite a step down from the lifestyle he promised her. Linda had suddenly developed a passion for extended cruises, conveniently absent from most family business matters. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. It was Thomas, looking older than his years. Alexandra, he said, clutching a folder. The quarterly reports. We're up 20% since you took over the international division. I accepted the folder with a nod. Thank you, Thomas. Was there something else? He hesitated, then sank into one of my visitor chairs. I owe you an apology. We all do, but I should have known better. The signs were there, your intelligence, your dedication to the company. Instead, I let Linda convince me that you were a threat to our family's legacy. The irony, I replied, is that I would have helped build that legacy willingly. All I wanted was to be treated with respect. I know that now, he said quietly. David was a fool to let you go, to let his mother's prejudices bind him to what was right in front of him. I thought about the years I'd spent trying to prove myself worthy of the Harrison name, never realizing that I was already worth more than their schemes and manipulation. How is he? I asked, more out of courtesy than concern. Struggling, Thomas admitted. Olivia left last week. Apparently, the reality of dating a man who lives off his reduced trust fund wasn't as appealing as the fantasy of being a CEO's wife. I couldn't help but smile at the irony. And Linda, still finding herself on various cruise ships, though I suspect she's mostly hiding from the society gossip. Your success hasn't gone unnoticed. I picked up a magazine from my desk. My face was on the cover, under the headline Harrison Industries' New Leadership. A story of resilience and innovation. Success is the best revenge, I said, quoting my mother's favorite phrase. Thomas stood to leave, then paused. Your mother would be proud of you, Alexandra. She raised a daughter who couldn't be broken. After you left, I walked to the window, watching the city buzz below. My phone lit up with a message from Margaret. Dinner tonight? We should celebrate your latest acquisition. I smiled, thinking of the small technology firm I'd just purchased, one that David had been trying to acquire for years. Definitely, I replied. I have some news to share. The news in question sat in an envelope on my desk, an offer to buy out the Harrison family's remaining shares in the company. Thomas would stay on as an advisor, but the rest, including David's trust fund shares, would be transferred to my ownership. I learned something valuable through all of this. Sometimes people's worst intentions can lead to your best opportunities. David and his family had tried to ensure I would end up with nothing, but their deception had pushed me to document everything, to protect myself in ways that ultimately gave me more than I'd ever imagined. Later that evening, over dinner with Margaret, I finally allowed myself to reflect on the journey. Do you think I was too harsh? I asked, taking everything they tried to deny me. Margaret set down her wine glass. You took what you earned, Alexandra. Every share, every position, every bit of respect. You earned it all. They're the ones who tried to take everything from you. She was right, of course. I thought about the young woman I'd been 8 years ago, so eager to please, so willing to prove herself worthy of the Harrison name. That woman was gone, replaced by someone stronger. Someone who understood that worth isn't given by others, It's claimed by yourself. My phone buzzed with another message, this time from Linda. We need to talk. About the buyout offer. I turned off my phone without replying. She learned soon enough that the tables had turned permanently. The woman they tried to erase had become the one person they couldn't ignore. To new beginnings, Margaret raised her glass. To karma, I countered, clinking my glass against hers. Looking out at the city lights, I felt at peace. Sometimes life's greatest victories come not from fighting back, but from being prepared when others show their true colors. David, Linda, and their schemes had taught me that lesson well. I'd lost a husband but gained an empire. In the end, I couldn't have planned it better myself.